Story by Hush a Blush, An Angel in the Bells. When I was in 6th grade, my swim coach passed away from cancer. I had been family friends with her since I was a baby. She was the first person my mom connected with after I was born, and we moved to a new city. I was destroyed after her death. I spelled out her name with sticks in my front yard, hoping that she would see me and watch over me. I remember not being able to go to school for about a week because I was constantly crying. At her funeral, they played Angels We Have Heard on High, and that song stuck with me. Not because it was Christmas time, but because she wanted that song played because she loved it. She passed in May, far from the appropriate time for that song to be played. I've noticed that every time I'm in a rut, wherever I am, I somehow hear that song. I remember being at a swim meet in middle school, feeling incredibly unprepared. I had been doubting my abilities to swim for a while, but a woman's ringtone in the bleachers I had been sitting on was Angels We Have Heard on High. Her phone rang, and my doubt melted away. I got second in my event that day. I was incredibly depressed in high school. I had no friends, no supportive home life, nothing. I remember hearing that song after my teacher let autoplay run through, and it was the next video. My worries felt less intense. There were a few other moments I heard this song that I remember, but they aren't as important. I live next door to a church now, and they ring their bells often. But this morning I was struggling quite hard due to my mom being diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and my boss won't give me the days off to see her after her surgery. I was lying in bed crying when all of a sudden I heard the same song, but this time it was the bells playing it. I 100% believe this is my old swim coach watching over me. Anytime I'm struggling, I hear that song and know everything is going to be okay. So first I want to say, the boss that you have, I hope it's had, past tense, is a mega L. That's just, how can, I get it. Your boss is focused on the company and wants the company to make money. Fair. But there's a limit, right? It's like some bosses, some people just aren't human. They sever their empathy completely. I don't get it. I'll never understand that. I try to approach all sides with consideration to understand the other perspective, even if I don't agree with it. It's helpful. So, trying to do that here, but there's nothing there. It doesn't appear like there's anything there. I don't know. But regarding the story, I just love how this is a reoccurrence for me, how music connects us in life, in death, to and from, it doesn't matter. Music plays a special role in our lives that is hard to quantify why, but it's there. And I think even in the beyond, they know that. It's always going to be there for you when you need it. If it's sent by your swim coach, if it's the universe trying to comfort you, your own guardian angel maybe, I don't know. But it's always there and it's always beautiful. Always cling to it if you need to. Welcome, I'm Paul. This little fella is Dave. Today I have 8 Glitch in the Matrix and paranormal stories for you. My favorite one at the end, as always. Let's get to it. Story by Alita Battle Hacker. Echoes of Kilimanjaro. A number of years ago, I worked as a security guard at Hurricane Harbor in Arizona. I originally worked during the day, but shifted to nights in the off-seasons. On one of the nights I first worked, a seasoned guard told me that sometimes they hear things at night. I pushed back on him a lot and thought it was hazing, called him out thinking they were trying to spook me. I talked to superiors in the coming days, and they also told me sometimes the voice of a woman is heard at night and people see things. My superior told me she personally heard a woman talking in the bathrooms by the lazy river, which are checked and locked after the park closes, and when they unlocked it in the middle of the night, there was no one inside. I was told before Six Flags owned the park, a woman fell off a slide that no longer exists and died. At the time, I couldn't find any info on it, but checking the park's history recently, I found it's true. Back when the park was originally Waterworld Safari, a woman did fall off a slide named Kilimanjaro and died of head trauma in 2001. My encounter. One night, I was working with a newer guard overnight. We did our usual patrols to check cameras, gates, and doors. When we got to the cabanas by the wave pool, one of the TVs was still on. Didn't think much of it, and shut it off and set the controller back on the table. As we were walking out, the TV turned itself back on. Weird, but wrote it off and turned off the TV again. Then, as we continued our rounds, I heard what sounded like a woman talking in the bushes by Mammoth Falls. The other guard didn't hear it, but he knew I wasn't screwing around. At this point, we think some people snuck in or something. Because of the fences and blocked off areas, we had a pinch point. He went around, and I went from the other direction and closed in. No one was there. We then finished checking the entire area and nothing. As we were walking away, we then heard someone whistle right from the area we just finished checking, 100%. This time he heard it, and we fully checked it again. Nothing. If someone was there, they could not have gotten away without us seeing them. After that, we wrap up and head back to the office talking about how weird that was, and then have to use the restroom. We get back to the office, and I get the key for the main guest bathrooms right next to the office. When I unlock and open the door, I hear the wet running of feet on the tile. I immediately radio to the other guard, and he sprints over within 15 seconds while I stand in the doorway. That door is the only way out. We walk through together on opposite sides. We meet in the middle. No one inside. Story by Whirlpool Sunshade, a guardian in uniform. This happened in the mid to late 90s when I was between 4 to 6 years old. Since it was so long ago, my memory might be a bit skewed, so please bear with my use of maybe or probably. I was on holiday with my parents and another family who were friends of theirs. We were window shopping on the sidewalk of a busy one-way road. My parents were always very careful with my siblings and me. They kept a close eye on us, especially near traffic. You guys can probably guess where this is going. I remember I had a sketching pen and a similarly sized cardboard tube, which likely came from one of those party whistles that rolls out when you blow into it. I was holding both in the same hand. For some reason, I decided I didn't want the cardboard tube anymore and was going to throw it into the busy street. Very stupid, I know. I remember thinking that if I didn't move the sketch pen to my other hand or my pocket, I might accidentally throw the pen away instead. Everything after that is a blur. I realized I'd thrown the pen away, so I yanked my hand out of my mom's grip and ran into oncoming traffic to go get it. The next thing I remember is standing on the other side of the street. My mom was hugging me, my dad was angry, and the family friends were trying to calm my parents down. There was a security guard standing there, next to them. It seemed like he had been watching me when I ran into traffic, and he had chased after me to pull me to the other side. I specifically remember a slight burning sensation between my shoulder blades, as if someone had smacked my back. To this day, I assume it was my dad who hit me, perhaps out of pure shock and fear, though he never laid a hand on me before or after that. I've asked my mom about this incident in the past, but she just waved it away. I assumed she just doesn't want to revisit such a scary memory. Personally, I believe that the security guard is the one who pulled me to safety. For some reason, I just know it wasn't my parents who jumped into the traffic, though they likely tried and my brain just can't conjure the memory. I don't know if that man is still alive, as he seemed older even back then, but I wanted to put this out into the open internet to express my gratitude. Story by Majestic Jazz Hands, a twin of thread. I like to wear bandanas, kinda 1950s style, where the wider part of the folded bandana goes on the bottom back of the head and gets tied on top of the head. so I have a lot of them, but I know for a damn fact I never owned two of this same particular one, which also happens to be my favorite one, because it's black with a bunch of white skulls on it. This part is important. I moved up to this state almost 11 years ago, and since this was my favorite bandana, I brought it up here from New York. I have a bunch of other bandanas like this, black with white skulls on them. So a few days ago, I'm sitting on my bed getting ready for work, and I had this bandana sitting on the bed in front of me like 3 inches away from me. My hairbrush slipped off the side of the bed, so I got down to pick it up, and I glanced under my bed and saw another black bandana with skulls on it. So I grab it and put it on the bed next to my original bandana so that they're side by side, and then I re-look at them. I untie both of them and spread them out so that both of these bandanas are spread out in 2 squares side by side. They are completely identical, even down to the small hole near the edge of a corner where I stupidly, instead of getting scissors and cutting it off, I decided to just pull it off, which resulted in creating a small hole towards one of the corners. This duplicate one had the exact same hole as the other. I have no idea where the hell this second identical bandana came from, especially considering that I bought the first one in another state that's a 7-hour drive each way, and I bought the first one 11.5 years ago. So where the hell did this second identical one come from? And just when I thought it couldn't get any weirder, I had to step out of my room for a few minutes, leaving the 2 bandanas next to each other on my bed. Tell me why I come back into my room 10 minutes later and the second freaking bandana is just freaking gone. I'm the only one in my house when all this was happening, so it's not a case that someone came in and borrowed it from me. I search everywhere for it, all around the bed on all sides, under my bed, and every inch of my bedroom. This stupid thing is just gone, and I've yet to find it again since this whole thing happened. I can't explain it. I don't hallucinate. I remember holding it in my hand and looking at it as I looked back and forth between the original and this one to see if every single part of it was identical, which it was, and it sure as hell seems like it just upped and disappeared. So my questions are: 1. What in the actual hell just happened? 2. Where the hell did the second one go? 3. Why the hell can't I experience these things with money? So classic DOP, reappearance, all that good stuff. But the ending is what got me to comment on this. It's just so funny. Why can't it be money? Yes, exactly. I've asked myself this question too. I don't know. Maybe there's a limit. It's like asking a genie for money. There's all these loopholes or rules. Like, okay, you ask for $1 million. Come on, Ben. Hey, what are you doing? I don't know if you can see this goofball up here. Like, say hi, Ben. He's always disruptive. Huh? Yeah, you are. It's like those genies where, okay, you ask for $1 million. They give you $1 million in Tanzanian money or, some Somalian dollars, whatever the currency is over there, that it's worth like 1 penny here. You got to be very precise. Or you ask for it and it's in a bank account you don't have the password for it. All kinds of nonsense like that. So you have to be very specific, and I think the universe just guards against that. There's errors. I mean, maybe money could glitch too, but I'm assuming they would correct that. It would be more of a problem than a bandana or a ring or whatever. Just saying. But the ending was perfect. Story by Pumpkin Pie 729. Midnight in the Opposite Lane. Last night around midnight, I was driving down a main road with a nature preserve on the right and a sound barrier wall, probably 20 feet tall, on the left that runs the entire length of the road. My friend was in the passenger seat. I was completely awake, not tired, and paying attention to the road. I recently came home from a different time zone and am not fully adjusted, so within my sleep schedule, it was 6 p.m. for me. Suddenly, I saw something in the opposite lane that looked like it was coming toward my car. I immediately slammed on my brakes. It was to the left of my vehicle, very close, and I got a clear enough look to know it did not look like a person or an animal. It was extremely tall and slender, at least as tall as my truck. I drive a lifted truck that is around 6.5 feet tall, I couldn't make out a face or any normal features. It looked like there was some kind of cardboard-like or flat material on the front of it, and it was moving or swaying in a way that made it seem almost alive. My first instinct was that something was standing there, and I was completely shocked because it looked so unnatural. My friend got a better look at it since I was focused on not wrecking my car. She is helping me write this, and we both had similar descriptions independently. She described it as seeming soft if you were to touch it, and the way it moved made it seem like it would be light in weight. It was not a windy night, and the sound barrier wall would have blocked any significant breeze. After realizing it did not appear human, I slammed on the gas and ripped it down the road to get away because I was terrified. There was another car approaching in the opposite lane, and I looked back in my side mirror expecting to see it in the other car's headlights, but it was no longer in the lane. I think I saw it still upright on the side of the road afterward, but I'm not entirely sure. We both cannot come up with a normal explanation. I know nighttime driving can cause strange visual effects, and I'm open to normal explanations, but this genuinely did not feel like a normal object or animal to either of us. Neither of us was impaired in any way, and we are not people who usually believe in supernatural things. I have always shrugged off stories like this, which is why I'm so confused by what happened. It did not behave like roadside debris, and I'm not sure why a person would look like what we saw. We're both pretty freaked out, so any input would be appreciated.
Story by Todd XXX123. The Scent of Goodbye. My wife passed away suddenly on June 2nd, 2020, from a massive heart attack. Nobody ever asked themselves, what would I do if my significant other was not here tomorrow? I wish I would have asked myself that question. Maybe I would have been more prepared. Anyways, 2 days after she died, I was on my way to do something, and at the last minute I remembered I forgot my phone, so I went back into the house through the hallway and entered my room. Got my phone, crossed back into the hallway, where I froze in my tracks because I smelled my wife's perfume as if she was standing right next to me. I forgot to say I knew my wife for 31 years and had been married for 23 years, so that was the first strange thing. About a week and a half ago, I went and collected my wife's ashes and placed them on the coffee table in the living room. That same day, I had someone answer an ad that I had placed on the OfferUp app. I was selling a lamp and I accepted the person's offer. The guy showed up about 5:30 p.m. and bought a lamp. While he was here, he asked if I was selling anything else, and I replied yes. I have a chandelier hanging up in the back of the garage that's for sale. I got it down and showed him. I also said I have a gas-powered skateboard that I am selling. It's in the house, all boxed up. Well, he passed on both items. A few hours later, I would get a notification on my Instagram page that someone had liked one of the posts, and the person had liked 2 pictures I posted, which is not uncommon. I did not even bother to look at it. The next morning when I got up, I checked that Instagram notification, and that person had liked 2 pics. One was of the skateboard, and the other was of the chandelier. Now those 2 posts are very far apart. In fact, you have to scroll down on my page about 200 pics to get to the chandelier. The person that liked the photos account was Carrie Mill, which is my wife's maiden name. So I clicked on the account, and one of the people that followed her was her niece. Another person that followed her was a manager at an apartment building that we used to live in. Weird, right? So I searched some of my wife's paperwork, looking for the password to her Instagram account, and I found it. So I went to her account, went to settings, and looked at the login activity. The only time that account has been accessed was from our own IP address. What the hell? Next weird thing, last night about 3 a.m., I was sitting at my computer in my room, and the dog came in, stopped at the foot of the bed, looked up like she was getting ready to jump up, but did not. Instead, she just sits there staring up at nothing and starts wagging her tail and twisting her head back and forth like someone is scratching behind her ears. This goes on for about a minute or so. Last thing, today,
my son was filling out an application for a student grant for school on his phone. When he was done, he scrolled to the bottom of the page to make sure he didn't miss anything. And you know how at the bottom of an app it says either how many people have used this app or when it was last used. Well, at the bottom of the app, it said it was last used on December 31st, 1969, which was my wife's birthday. I wish I was making this up, but I am not. So just, again, a touching story, and I really want to believe that in the beyond, whatever it may be, we're able to communicate, interact, affect our loved ones that are still alive. But the rules are nebulous, they're often contradictory, it seems. So I don't know what they are. I don't know what the rules are, really. No one does. But it just appears like it is possible sometimes, for whatever reason. And just, it's like the music, we have to cling to it. Because it's like a life raft or a piece of wood in the ocean where you don't want to drown emotionally. And sometimes there's a life jacket just floating out there. Swim to it, cling to it, whatever you need to. Story by Raspberry Glossy. Rosy Cheeks at Sunset. In a major city in Florida, and I've been thinking about this event that happened about 3 months ago, more and more as of late. What happened just doesn't make sense to me. I can't make it make sense either. Here's some background info first. There is a super stop nearby, and that's where I got on. I'm mentioning this because the super stop begins the route for the buses, so when they depart, some buses will go the same way for a bit, then split off into their specific routes. The bus numbers in this event are 39, 45, and 215. I was 39. All 3 buses would go straight until a major intersection is reached. Then the 39 will turn right, the 45 will cross lanes and enter the left turning lane, and the 215 will continue straight. I was on the bus home at 6 p.m., so the sun was still out, but it was beginning to set. There were about 8 people on the bus, including me and the driver, so it was pretty empty. Everyone was doing their own thing. I was sitting in the back, but more so in the front of the back, where the second set of doors is on a bus. I was looking out of my window when we stopped at a bus stop, and I saw this large man, like a husky guy with super clear skin and pink cheeks, walking past at a casual pace. He wasn't weird looking or anything, just a normal guy. I'm bringing that up because I noticed his clear skin while we were sitting there. I was thinking he'd be a beautiful woman, and other thoughts like, I need to up my skincare game. Anyways, the guy was walking past the bus. Like he didn't get onto the bus when it stopped, he was just walking past it. Then we started moving again after the person that the bus driver actually stopped got on. We passed another stop since no one was there. The following stop is where we stopped since there were people there. I saw the same man I saw less than a minute ago, walking past at that same casual pace. But this time, he had his child with him and his partner, walking behind him with a stroller. It was the exact same man, same clear skin and rosy cheeks. The time it took for us to get there from the stop we previously stopped at was like 45 seconds to 60. I tried to rationalize it because bus 39 wasn't the only bus that went the way we were going. I glanced up to see if there was a bus ahead of us, and I saw the pink and orange sky instead. I glanced because even then I was confused as to how he got there when there was no bus ahead of us to drop him off. The only bus that could have dropped him off there was not ahead of us. It was still at the super stop. This is all over the place, but I have to mention that when a bus stops and another is behind it, but no one is getting on the second bus, it will merge into another lane and go around the stopped bus to continue its route. The bus behind us was the 45, and I thought maybe he got on that bus. It went ahead of the 39, dropped him off, and that's how he got there so fast. But that doesn't make sense, since 45 does not stop at the stop we stopped at where I saw him again, since it need to go to the left turning lane, and in order for him to have walked past again, he would have had to be ahead of us. There was no bus obscuring my view of the sunset, and the 45 doesn't even stop at the stop we stopped at. I'm having a hard time finding the words for my last point. On basically for a few stops, you can get on any of the 3 buses. For 2 stops, all 3 buses are listed and get dropped off at the same place, but the bus that went ahead of us wouldn't have dropped him off at the place where I saw him a second time. The time it took for us to get to the stop where I saw him again was less than a minute. I was also looking around to see if anyone in the bus noticed, but everyone was still doing their own thing. This situation is so freaking weird. I hope this explanation made sense. Okay, not much to say on this story, just found it really funny how many times stop or stopping can be said. This is one of those things where if a word is said so many times, it kind of seems like it's a made-up word. It's not real anymore. You ever get that feeling? I don't know. It's weird. Story by Hiones85. A Quiet Little Miracle. I have a beautiful, very expensive pair of fishnet stockings that I only wear for specific occasions. I've never spent more than a Walmart price tag on pantyhose, but these were worth the price. They haven't ripped, snagged, torn, or run in the year or so that I've had them, and TMI warning, hubby and I have put them through the ringer. All this to say, I love the damn things and am very careful with them. The stockings sit in a canvas bin on a cubby-style shelf in my bedroom. This bin keeps all my more expensive, fancier lingerie separate from my day-to-day bras and panties that stay in the regular dresser underwear drawer. I've never had a problem finding this pair of stockings in their regular spot in the back of the middle of this storage cube. Last month, my husband and I took a mini road trip from where we live in northern New Jersey. We made short stops in Connecticut and New Hampshire on our way, before settling in at the resort in Maine. On our first night there, I wore the awesome fishnets, and they did not disappoint. Before I went to sleep, I carefully hand-washed them and hung them in the bathroom. The next morning they were dry, so I folded them up and put them in the drawer of the hotel room dresser with the other clean items I hadn't worn yet. 2 days later, we packed up our things and were ready for the second leg of our trip, 3 days in Massachusetts. While packing up the few remaining clean pieces of clothing I hadn't worn during the first half of the trip, I realized I didn't see my fishnets. I rechecked the bathroom, looked in every drawer of the dresser, even checked if maybe I hung them in the closet, but they were nowhere to be found. I was dramatically devastated, talking to myself loudly as I checked and rechecked floors, walls, drawers, and doors all over the suite. I emptied the suitcase I was packing and checked in my husband's suitcase as well. He helped look for a few minutes before saying, "No big deal, we can order them again." I am not a cheapskate exactly, but having grown up below the poverty line, I am noticeably frugal. Asking hubby to spend that much on what is essentially a luxury for a second time was kind of out of the question in my mind. So I continued to overreact for some time about the loss of my beloved fishnets. After a little while, I convinced myself that they'd probably turn up among the bags and suitcases when we unpacked in the next hotel. We had a great time in Massachusetts, but my stockings never turned up. When we returned home and I unpacked everything, 2 small suitcases and a couple of tote bags, I kept an intentional eye out for my stockings, but they weren't there. I finally accepted that they were gone, and my second favorite pair of pantyhose would have to be promoted to my best pair. Not that they're going to last a super long time, as they're so inferior in material quality. I know, my mind can be very dramatic about the smaller things in life. Jump to this morning, 19 days since we returned from our trip, and I'm trying to pick out an outfit for a rock show we're going to see tonight. I set my lingerie bin onto my bed, pull out a couple of things from the top to get to a cute bralette I keep in the back of the box. And what do I pull out from its regular spot? The one and only pair of black fishnet stockings that I own are clean and folded and sitting in my hand. 3 weeks and 4 states away from where I've seen them last, they are back in my possession, comfortably and nonchalantly, sitting exactly where they belong. I have no explanation for it. I don't even want to question it. I'm just so happy to have them back. I'll tell my husband excitedly once he gets off of work, but for now, I just had to share the experience with someone, anyone, that will appreciate it for what it is. And to answer some questions, when he got home from work, I asked my husband if he remembered me losing them, which he did, recalling how frantic I was when it happened. He wondered aloud what happened to them, and I told him they were back. He looked as surprised as I must have looked when I found them. I told him about the people on Reddit who suspected him of buying a new pair and putting them in their spot in the bin. He laughed and said he wishes he'd thought of that. But on second thought, he'd never tried to buy anything like that without asking first if I still wanted the same size and color. He also admitted that he'd never have known where I kept them, especially not the precise spot inside the bin under 2 layers of other pieces. I knew he didn't do it, not because he isn't amazing and super generous, but just because we know each other well enough to know each other's habits. We've been friends forever, literally met in preschool. I love him for many, many reasons, but his attention to detail isn't one of them. And again, he knows me far better than to surprise me with something so intimate and pricey. So 2 things on this one. First, you're keeping the passion alive. It's like La Passion from Angel Batista and Dexter. He knows the secret. He has troubles too, but good advice. Or it's just a good idea to imitate. Have passion. Bring it forward. And like you're saying, your lingerie is well used. Good stuff. Good sauce. And also just love from middle school. Connecting with someone that you knew for such a long time. That's beautiful. Kind of rare these days. Not something I have. I moved so often growing up, and then most of high school I was homeschooled, so there wasn't really an opportunity there. But, it's one of those things where it's like you grow together and you just come out better for it. You know each other so well. Can there be a better love bond? Maybe, but hard to beat that. Really happy for you guys. So my favorite stories have to go with 2. The first one, the Angel musical notes and the scent of goodbye, involving music and a certain scent to remember someone you love. It's just connections to the beyond really get me. Now for the jokes. I hate lifts and elevators. In fact, I'm taking steps to avoid them. What do you call a pizza with just peppers on it? Pepperoni pizza. So dumb. I told my therapist that I got a gun because of my fear of birds. He said I was getting carried away. I chambered around and said, "Not today." A boy is getting ready to take his date to the prom. First, he goes to rent a tux, but there's a long tux line at the store, and it takes forever. Next, he has to go get some flowers. So he heads over to the florist, and there's a huge flower line there too. He waits a long time, but eventually gets the flowers. Then he heads out to rent a limo. Unfortunately, there's a large limo line at the rental office, but he's patient and gets the job done. Finally, the day of the prom comes. The 2 are dancing happily and having a great time. When the song is over, she asks him to get some punch. So he heads over to the punch table, and there's no punchline. All for nothing. To the person who stole my place in the queue, I'm after you now. More glitches up here somewhere, and check them out. I'll see you next time. All right.